Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this. Government Property here. Today we're going to talk about mental health and specifically the kinds of mental health disorders. And I'm not talking like breaking down what is schizophrenia, what is bipolar, what is PTSD. But when I say kinds, there's two generic kinds of mental health disorders. And the first is biologically based. Think of it like being born missing an arm or being born blind or being born deaf. You can be born with specific neurochemical issues in your brain where you'll end up with things like schizophrenia, bipolar, ADHD, variations on major depressive disorder, and even generalized anxiety disorder can be purely genetic. And these are biologically based mental health disorders. The treatment for these disorders is going to be it's a two-pronged approach. One, you're going to need a psychiatrist who comes in and over the course of about a year and a half, prescribes you a different set of medicines, trying to find the right chemical cocktail combination to balance out your neurochemicals and help you function on a day-to-day basis. The other half of that two-pronged approach is a therapist to then help you learn coping mechanisms as when dealing with a biological mental health disorder, it's just like being blind, being born blind. It's with you for life. There isn't a magical cure where they go in and poof and suddenly you're better. You're dealing with this for life. And it's like I said, it's just like being born without a limb. It's a disability, and it should be treated as such. The other form of mental health disorder is an environmentally based disorder. This is going to come from your family of origin, from your interaction with society, from your interaction with your environment, trauma, stress, you know, any kind of sexual assault, any kind of bullying can potentially cause a mental health injury. And the reason it's an injury and not a disorder is because had you not had this injury, it wouldn't have become a disorder. Think of it like if you were to go and break your leg or, tear a chunk of your flesh off in an accident. You're going to need to go to a doctor to have the bone set or to have the skin stitched up. More often than not, when it comes to mental health, most people don't do that. They run off and like, oh, I'll be fine, or they ignore it, and they don't pay any attention to it. And then they end up with this festering, gangrenous mental health injury that just festers for years. And so in some cases, it can be a two-pronged, but usually a one-pronged is fine. But if it's bad enough, you'll have to go to a psychiatrist, again, to get medication to bring you into balance enough so that the therapist can come in and clean out the wound, metaphorically, and help stitch it up or reset the bone, metaphorically, for the mental injury. The biggest issue with this is once the injury is healed, it's healed. But it's not gone in a sense. Because just like with an injury that you have in the in your physical body, there's going to be a scar. There's going to be a lingering something with it. Something to remind you that it's happened. And that's part of that's part of the therapist's job to help you in the mental health side, is to help you not be controlled by it. To where you're able to go, yeah, this happened to me. It was unpleasant. I've recovered. And it no longer commands me. It no longer controls me. More often than not, with both of these, any kind of mental health disorder, the problem is there's a feeling that the disorder is in control. That the disorder has taken control of your life and your ability to function. Especially with depression, anxiety, any kind of phobia, stress, PTSD. And then especially with the biological side of like bipolar, ADHD, schizophrenia, delusional, just the whole thought process of it. How this applies to the mental health as a veteran is that if you have a pre-existing condition before you join the military that you're unaware of, ADHD, a lot of times schizophrenia doesn't show its doesn't onset or doesn't activate until between 18 and 20, generally speaking. Bipolar, sometimes you see it very young. Sometimes it happens when you're older. Um, but that's where you're going to find a psychiatrist, hopefully, and get it treated. The issue that you run into, though, is more often than not when you're serving in the military, you're going to be dealing with a lot of environmental issues, a lot of environmental trauma. And to get that fixed, to get that worked on, just like going to sick call to get some medicine, to have a doctor look at you, a mental health therapist and a mental health psychiatrist are going to be the doctor team. Think of the psychiatrist like the surgeon and the therapist like the general practitioner. In that sense, if you're looking for the mental health versus the physical health. In that, as the therapist, the counselor, we're going to come in and we're going to first figure out, we're going to triage and go, what the heck's going on here? What is the root cause? Where is the thing that is harming you? What event? And then start working into it. At the end of the day, we know full well we can't take this thing and make it go away, because we can pull the fragments of the emotional bullet, so to speak, out of you. We can suture up that wound. There's always going to be a scar. There's always going to be some reminder of the trauma you've experienced. That's just part of it. I have scars all over my body from childhood, from my time in the military, from my childhood. Each one of them reminds me of how I got it, but I don't feel the pain anymore. I don't experience the traumatic event that caused that injury. But that's not to say that I don't still remember it, but it doesn't control me. And that's the key takeaway when it comes to mental health care and physical health care. You go to the doctor so that they can stitch up your wound so it's no longer open, or you go to the doctor for medicine to treat your infection. You go to a therapist for the same thing on the mental side. You go to a psychiatrist for the same thing on the mental side. We go in, we work on you, and understand, unlike with a doctor who goes in and can just stitch you up real quick, with mental health, it can take a while, because we're having to dig into stuff that sometimes is repressed, sometimes you aren't comfortable at all talking about, especially with phobias or anxiety-based issues, and sometimes it's just a waiting game. It's just, all right, we're going to work with you, we're going to take this one session at a time, and we're going to go, okay, here's what we're doing this week, here's what we're doing next week, so forth, and we're just going to work you through it. And think of it very much like physical therapy after a stroke. You're having to relearn stuff and unlearn stuff. It's not pleasant, but we're here to help. We're here to give you the concern, the care, and the regards you need to recover as a therapist. And, as a veteran, I want to see my fellow brothers and sisters in arms get the care they need. And I'm not the only one. There's more of us out there that have gone into this profession specifically to work with our brothers and sisters in arms. So if you know somebody, if you know somebody, and now if you know somebody and live in the state of Texas, shoot me a message. There's ways to reach me. Because I'll do what I can to help. If you're somebody and you're like, hey, I'm trying to find somebody, like one of the places I go through is Psychology Today. I'm a member of that. Go there. They cover all 50 states. You can find people. But if you need help, or if you think you need help, please treat it like you're going to the doctor. Treat it like you're going to the physical therapist. This is a necessary part of your mental well-being, because your mental well-being can affect your physical well-being, and vice versa. Your physical well-being can affect your mental well-being. And even if the body of the car is functional, but all the electronics is screwed up, the car's still screwed up. So you got to work on it. Hopefully this has been informative. Hopefully I've educated you in some way. Like, subscribe, share, pass it on. Veteran mental health and education of therapists on how to work with veterans is what I do. It's my passion. If I didn't have to eat, I would do this for free. Other than that, if you need mental help, there are resources. Find them, call them, look them up. You owe it to yourself, if you're a veteran, to get the help you need. And that's what I'm here for. So, This is Government Property signing off.